I love where Moen's got that cut because it's going right into that second riff, and I just want to let it go and go. I mean, it doesn't seem long enough. How are we doing, everybody? It's a whopping 4 people watching us live. We just found out that Greg Pflugar, they decided to push the CFP an extra hour, cutting into our normal time. So we appreciate everybody who's with us here live. We're going to be here for about an hour and 45 minutes. So certainly, if you've joined us a little bit late, we appreciate you being here at all. And but it's going to be a fun show here on the Big 12 Mafia Show on the College Football Mafia Network. I'm your host, Nathan Bomber Brown. With me are my co-hosts, and I would say sort of in the canoe of life with me for this show. That would be Wild Ute and Daniel Gygax. How are we doing tonight, guys?
Doing well. How you guys doing?
I promise that we're not going to spend the whole entire show going through Big 12 championship tiebreakers.
No, we are not going to do that.
No.
We leave that to other people. We know the basics. There's not a lot of winning your ends. There's so many alternatives, but there are 4 teams that pretty much have the straight path to get to the championship game. It's just a matter of can they win to get in, and what help do they need? Anyway, we appreciate everybody being here tonight with us. We are going to cover some, obviously the breaking news will be college football, the new playoff rankings. We'll cover that. Daniel's on guard to bring that up. As soon as we have it, we'll talk about it. In the meantime, make sure you're following us all on Twitter. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube. We need those subscriptions to everybody. We know during the season, subscriptions isn't big for a lot of people, but we need to pick that up again here and to continue to grow the channel. So we appreciate it. If you're new watching the show, make sure you subscribe. And then turn on those notifications when you know we're going to have a show, both on YouTube and on Twitter. And, we'll keep you up to abreast of all the news that is in college football, not just Big 12. And we cover all that as a team on the College Football Mafia Network. All right. As we're waiting for the college football playoff rankings for week 14 now, which is just insane. Ute, what are some of your takeaways from this last weekend in the Big 12?
Really close games. And
Yeah,
mainly the Iowa State game and the BYU Arizona State game.
Yeah.
Colorado got exposed. KU's hot. There's just a lot of mix mash, right, everywhere. And there's freaking 9 teams in play. And Daniel Gygax, I know that you've got all the scenarios and how West Virginia can get in. It's probably going to be about a 10-minute discussion to break out all the scenarios and everything. But I think according to FanDuel has West Virginia with a 0.03 or 0.04% chance of getting in the championship game.
What was it? 5 teams have to lose. West Virginia has to beat Texas Tech.
I think the bigger question is, do you even want to win? Don't you want Neil gone yesterday? I mean,
this point, even if he's gone,
okay,
I never will ever cheer for WVU to lose.
Oh, wow. Okay, well, that's good.
No, I will not do it. I know
there have been a couple times where I've cheered for BYU to lose. I admit. There's been years where
BYU to lose?
A couple times. Yeah, I was pretty frustrated with.
It's not NFL. You're not tanking to get picks.
Gary Croton's last year, I could not have that season end sooner. One of Broncos' years, there was a end of the year game that I was just like, come on, just stop, go away, go to New Mexico or wherever else you want to go. Anyway, playoff scenarios. So that'll be coming up. We'll talk about that in the Big 12. Outside of the games last weekend, and Daniel, you can answer this. Was there any 1 or 2 things that stood out to you? I like the comment about Colorado getting exposed by Kansas State. Look, you do not want to play anybody in the state of Kansas right now. Both those teams are as hot as anybody in the country, and it's really unlucky that they're not going for that championship, or at least Kansas State's still in it, but Kansas dug themselves such a big hole. So were there 1 or 2 things that stood out to you?
Arizona State is the hottest team in the conference.
You think so?
End of story. Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh
Interesting.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
All right.
Yes, that game was sloppy at the end. That was really, really, really sloppy. They're 9-2.
Yeah, that's true.
Iowa State has a chance to do something they've never done: win 10 games.
Yep.
They got Farmageddon, and
Mhm.
that's going to be a elimination game too for Arlington.
Probably.
And
Absolutely.
I think Iowa State probably one of the best all-around teams I've seen.
Iowa State's the most balanced team that I've
Yeah.
encountered here. And Utah kept that game close with a punt block for a touchdown and a pick six.
Yep.
Otherwise, that game was going to get away from the Utes. Iowa State put up 400 yards of offense, ran it all over. Man, that team, they're sneaky good, but like they're going to be in a tough game versus K-State and Farmageddon. And if they can survive that, I like their shots, actually. I think that Iowa State has the best shot of any team in the Big 12 to win a playoff game if they indeed get there.
Yeah.
Given how their makeup is, it's
Yeah.
likely going to have to be on the road in a cold weather environment, and they're built for that stuff. I think they have the Big 12's best chance really to win a playoff game. The Cyclones.
Yeah,
And-
go ahead, Daniel.
I was about to say Rocco Bett.
He's not great.
He's
not a great quarterback.
He's one of those guys that he does everything well enough to win.
Yeah.
He doesn't make hardly any mistakes. His numbers, if you look at them on paper, are good, not great. He's probably not going to get any end of season awards, but he's just really good. And oh yeah, by the way, sophomore. He's got 2 years more to go there at Ames.
Can one of you guys tell me why isn't Kansas State the rivalry game in that region?
Because Kansas, Missouri used to be the end of the season big rivalry game that they used to play in Kansas City every year. Whenever Missouri moved to the Southeastern Conference, they had to come up with a different way to set up the rivalries.
But normally in-state rivalries trump anything cross-border.
Not really.
Every other state I can imagine. I can tell you 12, 15 states, and they all are internal inside the state. There's not many that the rivalry is across border.
Ohio State, Michigan.
One.
Backyard brawl.
Okay, well that they don't really play that at the end of the year.
No. But they used to.
Yeah. It's Florida, not the
Georgia,
norm. I was all saying.
Florida, Georgia's pretty big, but that's not a end of year rivalry type thing because Florida's playing Florida State and Georgia.
Yeah, I'm just curious. You gave me the answer.
It's the border war. It's because the Missouri and KU rivalry. Yeah. I mean, KU is right there, and Lawrence is near Kansas City.
Right.
Yes.
So you're almost there on the Missouri border. You've got Columbia, which is kind of mid-state of Missouri and everything. Mm-hmm. So geographic's not too far, but really Manhattan's only an hour and a half away from Lawrence, Kansas, too. Yeah. 2 hours away. Yes. I think that it really goes back into history. The K-State at one time before Bill Snyder was horrid. One of the worst college football teams and worst sports teams in the nation for a long time. And KU was okay, like they're fair and everything. So I think that they had that rivalry with Missouri that was developed long ago. And then K-State under Bill Snyder turned it around and started winning a lot of games. And now it's more of an even series and everything. But for a long time, KU just dominated.
Okay.
And so,
that's a reasonable explanation then. So as we're talking about now, we're into rivalry week. This is the last week of the season in the Big 12. You have a bunch of big games. Probably the one at the very top would have to be the one we were just previewing, which is K-State and Iowa State. But after that game, there's others, right? We had Territorial Cup.
Mm-hmm.
You got Arizona and Arizona State. That game is as fierce as any rivalry you're going to get around the country. Colorado plays who? Remind me who Colorado plays.
Colorado.
I had that pulled up.
Yeah, because they have to win, right? So the Big 12 for the 4 teams that are leading to get BYU, Iowa State. They play Kansas next.
They just played Kansas, Colorado.
They just played.
They just played. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Arizona State and Colorado. So those are the 4 teams. Arizona State pretty much win and they're in. They need a little help. Iowa State, same way. BYU needs help. Colorado needs a lot more help of the four.
They've got Oklahoma State.
Is that who it is? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And Oklahoma State, they sort of broke out a little bit last week.
New quarterback, unleashing a new quarterback for the Pokes.
Malachi Smith. Is that how you say Mamaluki?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, Smith. He's very, very good. He was somebody that both Utah and BYU recruited and couldn't get out of Oregon, I think. So yeah, I think this is a big weekend for the Big 12. You guys want to do shout outs? Do you guys, by the way, has the CFP thing come out yet?
Nope. It's
fine.
delayed for a basketball game, just like
of course it is.
2 weeks ago.
So they push it an hour and then delay it. That's awesome. All right, let's get some shout outs. Joaquin Morales, Arizona State in the house. Hey, Bomber, Wild Ute, Moa, and Rock and Rant, and College Football Mafia family. Don't forget to smash that like button. It's free. Go Devils. And Arizona State and Arizona is going to be a big game this week. Certainly,
massive game.
Probably the biggest game in Arizona State history in the last 30 years. I think in the late 90s they had a chance to went to the Rose Bowl, but I don't think they ever won a Rose Bowl.
They were close in the Pac-12 era, but they were not this close. I mean, they're right here on the cusp and everything. Look, they have to go down to Arizona to win this game, and that game, throw out anything. They still have Fafita, they still have T-Mac down there, so it's gonna get crazy. There's gonna be upsets. There's going to be upsets this weekend. It
has to be. The last 2 weeks have been nothing but upsets.
That's how it is.
So that's the way it goes. Good to see you, Joaquin. Thanks for being here. Stormy Cyclone, Iowa State in the house, checking in. Another valuable member of the Mafia family. Good to see you, Stormy. Hi, guys. More chaos in store. Let's see. Hope not for my Cyclones. You guys win, and I think you're pretty much going to get in there, Stormy.
Yeah, win and in.
Bobby, go ahead.
To let you know what's delaying it right now is a Memphis-Michigan State game, and there's 2 minutes, 41 seconds left to go.
That's all right. Bob Swanger, another member, says, hi, everyone. Happy Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving to you all, too. We will be having a show tomorrow night doing our picks. We're not having a show on Friday, and no preview for Saturday on that day. So it'll be tomorrow night, and I think we're going to go at the same time, but watch Twitter and watch YouTube. The time may change, but that's what we're looking at right now. Tomorrow night, 8 Eastern, unless Moen changes his mind. Joaquin says, hey, Daniel. Hi, Nathan Campbell. Good to see you. Let's see here. Antoine Codes, another ASU checking in. Hey, y'all, go Devils. ASU can win and still not get in. Crazy scenarios in play. It's true. There are some tiebreakers. It's just insane. Joaquin says, nuts. Hey, Bomber, I told Mo on Sunday night, KU, UU, BYU, OSU, all those teams win. That would be.
I hope so.
That would be good for me, I think. Maybe not.
I'd like a win.
Know.
Haven't had a win for 66
Utah
days.
Utah needs a win. Yeah, really quick before we move on, is Kyle gone?
A lot of people think so. That's really the smoke right now in the Utah circles.
Yeah.
Jay Hill, line one.
No, it's not Jay Hill.
It's going to be Morgan Scalley.
Morgan Scalley's already.
Really?
Yeah, he's already.
But I don't know who the defense coordinator is going to be. I mean, they're going to try to bring Jay Hill over as DC. You know they will. So you're gonna have to
they can try. I don't think he's going to go, but they can certainly try.
So I don't know. I mean, I would say it's 50-50 right now. I kind of still think that Whittingham stays personally, but there's a lot of Utah folks that think he's gone.
If you listen to his last two post games, if you listen to his last two post games, he looks tired, and I just don't see the fire that I'm used to seeing in him. But we'll see. We could all be wrong. He and Cam Rising could both be back next year.
The Last Dance.
Oh my gosh! I thought this year was the Last Dance.
So did I.
FF18 Buffs, another good, valuable member of the Mafia family. Good to see you. Buffs were humbled. Props to Kansas. Kansas is on a roll. On to Oklahoma State. Get ready for some serious recruiting news from CU. Well, they already got a 5-star quarterback, so I don't know. I thought Prime was gone at the end of the season, and I'm being turned out to be wrong. It's looking like. We'll have to see. Ryan Willie checking in. Good to see you, Ryan. Battle for the Axe. So that's Minnesota, Wisconsin. Is that right?
Minnesota, Wisconsin.
Paul Bunyan's Axe.
Yeah, that's going to be a good game. Minnesota darn near picked off Penn State last week.
I was cheering for the Fighting Flugars.
Oh, I wanted Minnesota to win for sure.
I just want chaos.
Yeah. I think Penn State's overrated. So
I think Penn State's appropriately rated, but like everyone was.
No, I don't.
Sometimes like you just have a knack to beat somebody, play them well. And I think Minnesota just has Penn State's number, especially at home.
They're really good.
Yeah, they are good. I know Greg was this close. I know he was really excited. They're a good team regardless. Laura Wise, Texas Tech, checking in. Thank you for being a valuable member of the Mafia family, Laura. Good to see you. Hey, all. Let's see. Tebow 49 is 40-year-old Cam Rising coming back. Ute.
If Cam Rising it really works out a deal where he's not getting much NIL money and most of it can go to another transfer quarterback, sure, why not? But he doesn't have a guaranteed starting spot, and he's going to have to play Isaac Wilson if he's around and a transfer quarterback or two in, see if he can beat him out. But the money cannot be going to Cam Rising. Yeah, that's my view of it. So is he going to stay with no money? Why doesn't he just coach at Utah? We'll pay him to coach, be a graduate assistant.
See, and I can see that. Yeah, I can see that.
Man, that's it.
And Antoine Coates corrects me. They did win Rose Bowl. I'm not sure what year that is. I think it was in the 90s, if I'm remembering the right time. I'm probably remembering.
98, 99.
That's what I was thinking, late 90s. But okay. Also says ASU has been and won the Rose. UA has not. So Arizona never won it. The Big Lubbock checking in says, "What did I miss?" Well, you haven't missed much yet. Just us talking, previewing about this next week, Lubbock. But we're glad you're here. Thanks for showing up. Paul Lubke, I hope that's right. Sup, guys? Happy for my Cyclones hanging in there despite some weird miscues. We weren't so lucky against Auburn in hoops last night. That was a shocker. Iowa State losing that game. In fact, the Big 12's lost a few games.
No, Colorado beat
they did
UConn
today.
Yeah.
Colorado's basketball team beat UConn?
Yeah, yes. They did. They were picked 16th in the Big 12 this year.
And apparently that's where you want to be picked in the Big 12. 14th through 16th.
Basketball and football. Let's go.
Right.
All right, guys. I think that's going to be all the shout outs. Appreciate everybody being here. So the very first thing I want to get to is this article that popped up from Ross Dellinger. Let me bring it up so everybody can see it. This was an interview he did with Brett Yormark. I will post the link so everybody can get to it on Twitter. Basically, he went to him and said, "Hey, look, let's talk college football playoff. Let's talk Boise State." And he was pretty revealing in this article. So Ross's headline is, "A fascinating argument has emerged in the CFP debate. Will the group of 5 best team, Boise, get a first-round bye over the Big 12 champ? Brett Yormark tells Yahoo Sports there is no rationale for his champion not to get a bye. Just look at the data," and I think the data absolutely justifies it. Strength of schedule for Boise is absolutely terrible. And they play in the Mountain West. It's not even their fault. You can only beat who's in front of you, but they're limping into the end of the season here. They are not looking great. So this is the headline. Is there already a college football playoff controversy? Well, the first day there was a controversy. Right. Potential bye-racking nerves with 2 weeks left. The data doesn't lie. So let's get down here. These are the things that are at stake. Who are the final at-large selections? Which teams receive a first-round game at home? We know for sure that's not going to be Notre Dame. Which 4 conference champions receive the first-round bye? So everybody knows how the playoff works. We don't have to go through all those things. But Boise State's sitting at 10-1. We're assuming they're going to win against Oregon State this weekend. If they do, then they will play UNLV in the championship game for the Mountain West Conference. And right now, I don't think UNLV's ranked. Are they? Are they in the top 25?
No, I don't believe they fell out. I believe. I don't think
so.
They're in.
Boise State only has 1 victory over a top 25 team. And that team's not even in the top 25 anymore.
We got to check. I think UNLV's number 22, guys.
Oh, are they?
Oh, okay.
They back in it?
I know
Okay.
they beat Washington State.
Okay, so they have one victory over a top 25 team.
Hold on.
This is a quote from Brett Yormark in this interview. Based on where we sit today, I see no rationale for the Big 12's champion not getting a first-round bye. The winner of our championship should receive a bye, and we should say if BYU, Arizona State, ISU win the championship game, they only have 2 losses. So it's not like they're a 3-loss champion. The only way that there's a 3-loss champion is if Colorado or potentially Kansas State or somebody else gets in. So a 2-loss Big 12 team, this is what Brett Yormark's arguing right here. He says, the winner of our championship should receive a bye. I have a lot of trust in the selection committee. I don't know where that trust is coming from. And I'm sure they'll see it that way. Just look at the data. The data doesn't lie. From a strength of schedule standpoint, all 4 of our schools at the top of the standings are ranked ahead of Boise State.
UNLV's 21.
Okay, thank you. And don't correct me if I'm wrong, but the Big 12 has 3 or 4 teams in the top 20. Is it 3 or 4? Arizona State, BYU, ISU.
Yeah.
Is Kansas State in the top 20?
Arizona State, Iowa State. Oh, wait, Arizona State's 14, Iowa State 17.
BYU's 18.
19.
19.
It's AP poll from Sunday. Because CFP rankings aren't out.
Right.
Hold on. Colorado's 23, and K-State is other receiving votes.
Yeah, so it's Colorado, not K-State. I had those mixed up.
Yeah.
So, which kind of makes sense because Colorado's been in the eye since K-State lost those couple of games. They kind of dropped back. Anyways, we continue with the article. At the center of the debate is a comparison not only of the individual teams but of the 2 leagues. The argument is fascinating in an era of college football where the power leagues continue to separate themselves. Oh, sorry. Did I not share that? Thank you, Ute. I apologize.
It's all good.
Yeah, this whole time I've been reading. Yeah, I'm sorry, everybody. That was totally my fault. I forgot to share that screen. This is what I read before. It's at the top of the article before the picture. And then down here is where we're talking about the argument is fascinating in an era of college football where the power leagues continue to separate themselves. The Mountain West, Sun Belt, Conference USA, American and Mid-American conferences are all fighting for that group of now 6. It's going to be a group of 6 with the Pac-12 champions. Yormark is loaded with Big 12 data points. His league has 42 wins over teams with a winning record. The Mountain West has 11, 5 of those from 2 teams. 9 Big 12 teams are bowl eligible. Mountain West has 5. Boise State's strength of schedule is ranked 81st, 12 spots behind the worst of the Big 12's top 4 teams. Iowa State at 69. The 2 leagues have actually met in the field 8 times this season. The Big 12 is 6-2. With an average margin of victory of more than 3 touchdowns. UNLV holds both of Mountain West wins at Houston and at Kansas. And I would say when they played those games at the beginning of the season, both those teams were extremely down. They hadn't found who they were. They're not the same teams they're playing now. Arizona State defeated Wyoming by 41 points. BYU beat them by 20. Boise State struggled against Wyoming just last weekend, only won by 4 points. There's no rationale for us not getting the bye. In an interview Monday with Yahoo Sports, Boise State's coach, Spencer Danielson, isn't looking that far ahead. We still have 2 more games even to continue the conversation. And they're saying we need to continue to win and perform. Okay. So I've posted that link. Everybody can read. I'll post the link to the article itself. Oh, I already did that. In the comments, so feel free to go to that, the Ross Dellinger tweet. But this argument has been going for a long time now. On ESPN, the talking heads have all been dissing the Big 12 for weeks. This isn't new. So tell me, and I'm going to ask you this question first. Where does Brett Yormark get all this confidence from? Because it doesn't seem to be coming across from a PR standpoint at the company that's running the whole thing, and that's ESPN ABC.
He's fighting for the Big 12, unlike what Jim Phillips did last year for Florida State. This is him politicking, petitioning, and getting in front of the issue here. Because, guys, Boise State's currently ranked ahead of the Big 12 schools in the CFP. It's a looming issue. It's right there in sight. And so he's getting ahead of this and starting this battle a couple weeks early for the final CFP rankings. So it really is an issue. And I agree with Yormark and everything, especially if you've got a 2-loss Big 12 team that's a champion. There's no doubt about it. They should get the 4 seed. If you have 3 losses, you're probably screwed. It's probably harder to make that argument and everything, but that's not likely to happen. So he's getting in front of it. It's a good thing. He's fighting for the conference. He needs to do it. There's nobody else out there. They're not going to do it on Fox. They're not going to do it on ESPN or anywhere else. There's no propaganda platform for the Big 12 currently, so he's got to fight. This is him fighting.
And here's the other thing. Who was it? Heather Dinich was on Pat McAfee's show this morning. And she was laying out the case how a 3-loss SEC team will get into the playoffs. Dead end. It's the same thing like Kurt Herbstreit last year, where he was talking to everybody saying FSU was not going to be able to get in to the CFP. I think it's interesting that now Quinn Ewers is out at Texas. So if we follow that rule, Texas is out of the playoffs, right?
Yeah, but we know that Florida State is not Texas, though.
Yeah,
you can't compare those two.
Oh, man. Oh, that's a great point, though.
But that's the rule set last year.
Well, look, we're at 12 teams. Everybody knows the SEC and the Big Ten are get the lion's share of the teams in the conference playoff. There's no debate about that. I think the argument could be made that next year they need to move to 14 teams after year 1. I think they need to do whatever they can to get more teams in. And in my opinion, they should move to 16. The reason I think they wouldn't move to 16, though, immediately is they like those buys for the Big Ten and the SEC. So I could see them doing a 12-team plus 2 buys, one for the top 2 teams. And those top 2 teams would invariably always be Big Ten and SEC teams. I could see them doing that next year. But Jim Phillips, I think this is your greatest point, Ute. At the end of the year last year, before they lost, and who's their quarterback? Remind me who their quarterback is.
It's Jordan Travis.
Jordan Travis. Before he got hurt, even like week 11, when Florida State was still undefeated and he hadn't gotten hurt yet, Phillips wasn't saying anything. He wasn't out there. He wasn't being a proponent for his league at all. He didn't say anything for 3 weeks. And then when he came out, after the picks were done and already settled, he came out and said, well, we think we got screwed. He didn't do anything beforehand. And I think Yormark is not that guy.
No way he's going to fight. Yormark's a fighter for sure. Like he's not going to sit back and just be some puppet on a string like Jim Phillips is. Yormark's kind of the ilk of like a Greg Sankey. We know we don't like Greg Sankey and stuff. He's a tool. He's smug. He's arrogant. We all get that and everything. But Yormark's a fighter. And guess what? Sankey's a fighter too. They're just trying to advocate for their leagues. And Yormark's, he gets it done. He does. I mean, it creates pressure on the network partners, on the committee and stuff when you get in front of this and bring that up and how much it impacts like the decision making, maybe subconsciously and everything. It's going to be a big swing factor. So he's fighting for the conference. It's going to get done. If there's a 2-loss Big 12 championship, there'll be the 4 seed because of this stuff right now.
Say 11-2 ASU. That should be a 4. Should easily be a 4 seed.
Yeah, I think any one of the teams that have 2 losses in the Big 12. I think it's a harder argument for Kansas State or Colorado, though.
Yeah. Now, here's the other thing. Talking about Phillips. When was the last time he's done like a sit-down interview with anybody?
Didn't he do one last week, though?
He came out and
it was like vanilla, very generic. It wasn't really advocate because he can't advocate for Clemson or Florida State. He can only advocate for Miami, who hasn't sued him, or SMU. So there's one whole school that he can't really say anything about, and that's Clemson. I mean,
yes.
His interview last week was just like milquetoast, I thought.
Yes. And I think a lot of, and
right?
Here's the thing. I don't think that he can say a lot right now because
I agree.
With so much tied up in court.
Yeah.
He can't go on TV and say, hey, this is what's going on with our conference. Because, hey, the first question is, how's things in Pickens County, South Carolina? How's things in Leon County, South Carolina? How's things in Mecklenburg Business Court? That right there are 3 questions he can't answer.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Were you going to say something else?
Yeah, I mean, what's he going to say right now? He's neutered, completely neutered right now. And he reminds me of Larry Scott a little bit in some ways, the old Pac-12 commissioner before Kliavkoff. Kliavkoff, there's a guy that put his foot in his mouth and everything and looked like an idiot a lot of times. But Larry Scott just didn't do anything, right? He just sat back and enjoyed the caviar and wine. I feel like Phillips is just like that. Very similar to Larry Scott and stuff. He's just not going to get much done. He's not going to stir the pot, not going to cause trouble for the media partners. He ain't going to get out in front of anything. So
they're the same. They are the same conference, just on different coasts.
Yeah,
I mean, there's no doubt about it. The
way
they behaved is the exact same.
The real estate in Charlotte's a lot cheaper than the real estate in San Francisco that both conferences are leasing.
In 10 years, it might not be that way.
I know.
North Carolina, South Carolina, man, those things.
My dad lived in North Wilkesboro. My brother lived in Charlotte for 8 years.
There you go.
That place is booming.
Let me get to this. The last thing I want to get to is this quote that we had from Chris Kleeman. And I tried to find the sound because the sound was awesome, but I can't seem to find the quote. Anyway, I'll read it to you, what he says here, and I'll bring it back up so everybody can see it. This is in the article as well at the end. What's going on this is Chris Kleeman, the coach at Kansas State. What's going on right now isn't fair to the Big 12. Other teams can lose in other leagues, and that league is really good. We lose in this league, and this league stinks. I don't understand that. As a conference, we need to get together and figure some things out. For a bunch of teams to be 9-2 and we can't get any benefits in the CFP, then we need to cancel one of these conference games and then go to 8 games.
Yep.
The decision from the selection committee related to the first round bye is not insignificant. The 4th highest ranked conference champion, the number 4 seed in the bracket, gets an additional week of rest, which after the championship game is really almost a necessity.
It's huge.
The team would play one of the winners of the 5-12 seed matchups in a bowl site quarterfinal matchup. Right now, Notre Dame's got that 5 seed sewn up. I don't see anybody stealing that from them. The 5th highest ranked conference champion, at least according to how the rankings project, is likely to be the 12 seed. That means playing a first round game at the 5 seed on the road. And that 5 seed could be anywhere from Ohio State, Notre Dame. It just depends how the rest of the season goes. So it's just remarkable that we've gotten to this point. What's funny about this is last year when we talked about the CFP, we kind of predicted this, didn't we? We kind of thought that we could be in a position where the Big 12 has to fight for every single thing it gets, which is why it's been so important and why we talked about it in the offseason about the Big 12 using private equity to buy teams from the ACC to bolster up that sort of gravitas so that we no longer have this discussion, right?
It's true. And plus the parity's killing the Big 12 in these conversations. I'm going to keep tooting this horn, guys, but the parity sucks for playoff berths. That's great and everything for Big 12 viewership, internally and stuff, but nobody outside the Big 12 gives a crap about Big 12 parity. They want to see a dominant team. And the problem is Oklahoma State and Utah blew it this year.
Yeah.
Let's be honest about it. K-State
so
did
Kansas
too.
State and Kansas.
And Kansas.
And Arizona.
Arizona, the offseason, and as much as that shouldn't matter, it matters tremendously because that gets momentum going in and people's minds set up. But when you've got teams that are 14 and 16 picked preseason that are now at the top of the conference, it looks pretty soft. It looks that way. It might not be that way and stuff, but it looks that way. So that parity is absolutely destroying the Big 12, and it will continue doing so until somebody takes the bull by the horns and wins consistently as a powerhouse, or a couple teams and everything. But this flippity-floppity stuff is not good for the Big 12. Big 12 does not have the reputation of SEC after winning multiple championships by several teams. They have the credibility. Big 12 does not. And so it looks like just a marginal conference. That's what it looks like to the outside until somebody wins consistently year over year is more proven. It's going to be this way.
the Southeastern Conference are getting all the breaks. I mean, they beat each other up this past weekend. I mean, Alabama lost to a not great Oklahoma team.
But I think that's going to become more normal. I think
Yeah,
we need to get
because-
used to the SEC. Rarely are we going to have undefeated teams anymore. There's too much parity, too much trickle down with the 5 stars to the 4 stars to the 3 stars to the schools that want to spend the money.
I think that you can still, I mean, right now, Oregon's undefeated, and that's the only one I could think of off the top of my head.
They are the only one that's undefeated. Yeah.
And that's just, and Oregon's probably going to have a rematch against Ohio State in the Big 12 championship.
Right.
Big Ten champion.
I'm sorry, Big 10.
Yeah.
Big 10. Sorry.
Well, they have to get past Michigan,
Yeah.
right? You can't take
Boom.
for the game. You can't take any of that for granted. I just want to we've had some people join us late. I know the college football playoff thing's going right now. So if you're going back and forth, I totally understand if you've lost the thread a little bit. We're talking about where the Big 12 is and where the perception is for the CFP. I want to read these 2 paragraphs again. Brett Yormark's out on a PR campaign. It's his job. He's out there for the Big 12, right? So these are the things that I think we all need to remember. Yormark is loaded with Big 12 data points. His league has 42 wins over teams with a winning record. The Mountain West has 11. 5 of those from just 2 teams, Boise and UNLV. 9 Big 12 teams are bowl eligible. Mountain West has 5, meaning they're under 500. Boise's strength of schedule is ranked 81st, and the lowest in the Big 12 is Iowa State, which right now pretty much is in the driver's seat to get to that CFP. But 69 is still quite a bit above where Boise State's has been. The 2 leagues actually met on the field, 6-2, and UNLV beat both Houston and Kansas. So, data matters, but I want to get over here because I, for one thing, I really respect and like Clint Moses. I love when he comes in here and engages. The Big 12 2 losses are worse than Boise State's 1 loss. It's funny when BYU was squeaking by with close wins, it was a positive for finding a way to win, but Boise does it now. It's negative. The difference is your strength of schedule, Clint. Who are you beating in those close games? BYU close games are against Kansas and Utah and Arizona State, and you're going to put them up against Nevada and Wyoming, and I don't even know who else. Utah State. They're not really comparable. At least they're not comparable to me. Am I wrong?
I mean, the Big 12 is a much tougher conference than the Mountain West. I don't think that's arguable at all. And so I think the 2-loss champion gets that 4 seed. Guys, there's a looming issue. I'm just looking at some of the updated CFP rankings. I'm going to share this.
Yeah,
I want to get your reaction. I want to get your reaction. You guys are going to like this. I don't like this either.
I'm
just
laughing.
Get it up. Yeah, do it.
Okay, so Stuart Manziel tweeted here.
Yeah.
Highest ranked Big 12 team in the new CFP is 16, and that's Arizona State. Guys, 1 spot above Tulane.
Yep.
Yeah, I know.
Others, Iowa State 18, 19 BYU, K-State 24, Colorado 25. Tulane is on the tail right now, too. It's not Boise State. That might be the issue. It's Tulane. I mean, if there's a 3 – I don't know. What this means to me is if there is a 3-loss champion, that's a serious issue.
Yeah, I
Tulane
agree.
wins out. That's the doomsday's back on the table for Big 12. Forget a 4 seed. The doomsday scenario if a 2-loss team doesn't win it.
Right, I agree 100%.
So this is not moving in the way that we wanted to for Big 12. This is showing a lack of respect completely. 16 for Arizona State, and Tulane's right there at 17. SMU's at 9, Nate.
Yeah, I know. And you know what? At the end of the day, what we're going to have to – we can't compare to SMU anymore because they're fighting for that ACC championship. It's really getting that other auto bid. And I have to believe, and I will be stunned if this doesn't happen, but I have to believe a 2-loss champion out of the Big 12 gets the 4 seed just because the next 2 games will be tougher than the next 2 games that Boise State or Tulane play. Strength of schedule and all the other data that Brett's putting out there is what we've been talking about for months. A three seed, a 3-loss team, yeah, there might be big problems. But if one of the two loss teams gets in there, I think they'll get that 4 seed. Let's see, Daniel, what did you just post here? This is the top 25.
Top 25, yeah.
So let me bring that up here. Give me 1 second.
I haven't seen the bracket, hasn't posted yet.
That's okay. We don't need the bracket. I don't need the pictures. So this is the top 25 coming out from the CFP. Okay, so this isn't AP poll or anything like that. Oregon, no surprise. Ohio State, no surprise. Texas, no surprise. Penn State, no surprise.
Alabama, 13. That's such bullcrap, guys.
It is, yeah.
That's the biggest bullcrap I've ever seen.
Yeah. Miami.
They have an A on their logo, on their uniform. That's it. That's the only reason why they're getting that.
Georgia, Tennessee, SMU, Indiana. Boise State, again, not a surprise. Clemson. So right now, the 4 teams are Boise State has the 4 seed, if I'm reading this correctly, as I look at the different conferences. Let's see here. Clemson, Alabama, Ole Miss, South Carolina. So all these are all 3-loss teams ahead of Arizona State. Tulane's only got 1 loss. Do I have that right?
Correct.
They've got 2.
Do they have 2?
They've got a K-State loss and a Oklahoma loss.
So if Tulane's lost 2, how are they behind?
That's right.
That is crazy. They're behind the Big 12 then if they got 2 losses. Then you have Iowa State, BYU, UNLV's there at 22, Kansas State, and Colorado. So, yeah, I completely agree. I mean, this is, if I was Brett Yormark right now, I would be calling ESPN and saying, is this what being a valuable partner is? Because you're disenfranchising one of the things you're paying a lot of money to broadcast. So, he's not going to sit back. He's not going to sit back and just take this. I guarantee you that.
But what's more valuable to Disney? A 3-loss Alabama or a 2-loss Big 12 champion?
Yeah, well, I think it's about the conference. It's about that 4 seed, though. We're not even talking about having a second team in anymore. That conversation's done and dusted, right? At this point, what we're talking about are things like if whoever loses Miami, SMU, do they drop out with a second loss? That's probably one of the ones at the top of the list. At least it would be on top of mine. And then who gets that 4 seed between Tulane, Boise, and whoever wins the Big 12? And again, I mean, I'm an old guy. I'm making a lot of assumptions that sometimes I'm wrong, sometimes I'm right. But I got to believe a 2-loss Big 12 champion gets that 4 seed. Next 2 weeks play out. They have the last pick for the CFP, and they're in the 4 seed. That would be my
I agree with you. But the concerning thing is a 3-loss Big 12 champion gets left out. I think that's what we're looking at.
It's possible.
4 seed.
Yeah.
4 seed with a 2-loss or left out completely. Like, it's just mapping out like that. Because Clemson's right there on the cusp. Boise, if they went out, they get in 2 lanes there on the heels. I mean, it's an issue. It's a big issue and stuff. So you need folks to win out. So
I completely agree with you. Yeah, I agree. Let's get to some comments here. Appreciate everybody being here with us live. We just are reviewing the latest college football playoff rankings. Give me 1 second. I have to get my other banner up. I apologize.
That's so dang disappointing. A 2-loss Tulane team is sitting there right on the heels of Arizona State and ahead of Iowa State and BYU.
Yeah.
That's so disappointing.
Yeah, it's one of these things that we saw this doomsday coming about halfway through the season when we realized that Oklahoma State and Utah, certainly at the time, Kansas State only had 1 loss. Iowa State, I think, was undefeated. There were warning signs. Week 6, Week 7, Utah, West Virginia had fallen down. Now you're losing valuable brands, and the brands that are popping up aren't any less valuable. In fact, I think you could argue in some cases they're more valuable in certain situations. But even them, they start beating each other at the end of the season, and this is what needs to be avoided in the future. They need to do different things with the schedule to try to prevent a lot of these things happening in the future. Did you want to share something else?
Yeah, we got to share one more thing. And
Go ahead.
Thanks for providing this. You want to see how big a 4 seed is versus the 12 seed and how important it is?
Yes.
Right now, Arizona State's traveling to Ohio State in this theoretical bracket. That's the only Big 12 team. You're the 12 seed. You're traveling to Columbus, Ohio to play the Buckeyes in the cold on the road while Boise State sits there and waits for the champion at a neutral site.
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about, how big that is.
Yeah, it's not good.
Rough.
No, it isn't. And if you look at this, SMU actually, I think, has a pretty good draw. They play Notre Dame at Notre Dame, but Notre Dame's gettable. We know that. Yeah. Tennessee, Georgia, that would be a great first round game. Southeast Conference. I don't know if they played this year. They did play this year, and I think Georgia won. Then you have an Indiana, Penn State.
That was last weekend's game.
And that's a renewed rivalry from earlier this season. So, I couldn't agree with you more. And what I'm frustrated about isn't that this has happened; it's that what we worried about could happen has happened. What I would have liked to have seen is when we were worried about it 5-6 weeks ago, it didn't play out this way, right? That we would have gotten a better draw, a better appearance. Certainly BYU losing the last 2 weeks really hurt the Big 12. Kansas State and Iowa State losing inopportune games near the end of the season has not helped. Arizona State popping up, that's been a pleasant surprise, and if they end up making it in the playoff, that's fantastic. But there was an opportunity where you had an undefeated and a one loss that could have gotten in 2 teams, similar to like now we're seeing the ACC's getting, and they blew it. They screwed it up. And I know that the conference doesn't play these games, but you said something last week that I thought was absolutely prescient. And that is both BYU and Utah have not looked the same since they played each other. They played a game week 10 or week 11 right after a bye week, and that was their season. Both those teams put everything they had into that game, and coming out of it, both were wounded ducks. And I think you've seen that the last 2 weeks out of both schools. And
that game needs to be played then a bye week after.
Has to be
middle of the season. You've got to do that.
Has to be at the end of the season. Has to be.
I think.
You can't do this again.
Let me be a neutral party to this.
Sure, go ahead.
I think where they had it in the schedule is good. And let me explain. You get a lot of eyeballs on that game. It's not up against the Iron Bowl. It's not up against Michigan, Ohio State. It's not up against Florida State. It's its own standalone game. Yes, it is not rivalry week, but guess what? It still is highlighted heavily.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're not talking about that at all, Daniel. I think maybe I'm not communicating. Has nothing to do with people watching the game. Has to do with the fact that these teams were so toasted afterwards that they haven't played well since.
True.
If you put it in the middle of the season, even at the beginning of a season, there's so much invested in winning that game. People don't understand. I thought that we started to change some minds. You and I came back the next week after that game. Both of us had emotional feelings about it, but we were getting a lot of feedback from people who had watched it that had never watched it before. Right. And I think they appreciated how big of a deal it was for both these programs. Since that time, neither team has looked the same. Now, BYU finally turned it on a game and a half in the second half against Arizona State. But for a week and a half, they didn't even show up. So I'm just making the argument that if I'm Brett Yormark and I'm looking and I'm seeing what's happening at this CFP, you need to have these games the day before Thanksgiving. You need to have them Friday after Thanksgiving. You need to even have them on Thanksgiving. Do anything you can to get them at the end of the season. I don't really care if people are watching the games or not, because right now, is ESPN rewarding the Big 12 for viewership numbers?
No.
I don't see any rewards at all. I see no rewards at all. BYU's played, it's going to be 7 night games out of 12 games this week. 7 of their games have been at 8:30, 10:30 Eastern, and they've all drawn really good numbers. They've been fantastic games, but you're doing that to sort of salt your numbers, right? You're not doing that to help your teams. If you really want to help your teams, you need to put them in times that they can actually win and compete. And I think it was a complete waste putting the Holy War when they did. November 11th was a terrible time. And I'm going to do a whole thing on it in the offseason. It's going to be a drumbeat. Brett Yormark has to change that.
I agree with some of your ideas. Like, and here's the thing is, like, if you're going to do it, and Daniel brings up a good point because it did drive a lot of interest. They got a lot of eyeballs on it, right? Which is good for both schools. But you better freaking put a bye week in back of that. Like, do not put a bye week before the game and then send Utah to go play Colorado on the road and get shellacked. You know, like if you're gonna have a big time rivalry game, a Farmageddon in the middle of the season, then have a bye week after so the teams can emotionally rest and get back on their feet and stuff. Don't put a bye week before and stick them out there. That screws both teams for sure. So either way, either put it put a Thanksgiving weekend or give us a bye week after a huge rivalry game in conference.
That's a good idea. The bye week idea. I like that. Trent Brown, my brother's namesake. Good to have you here, Trent. It's good to see you. $1.99 super chat. Big 12 and SEC are similar in strength this year, in my opinion. They are. If you look at the data, Kelly Ford's ratings, Sagarin ratings, Big 12's right underneath the SEC in Sagarin ratings. And the more I see stats like that and you start seeing the data, not FPI, I'm not a fan of the ESPN metric, but the others, and there's 4 or 5 of them. Kelly Ford has a good one. You put those together, you go back to the computer model that we had in the 2000s and get away from this subjective crap. I'm so tired of eye test and some of these other nonsense things. This 2-lane, 2-loss ahead of every Big 12 team absolutely blows me away. I have no other explanation for that. So, Trent, you're exactly right. Data backs you up. Let's get to some comments here while we're thinking about it. I'm just going to start at the top. Mr. Monkey says Boise State equals middle of the pack Big 12 team at best.
Nah.
They're good. I'm not saying Boise State's not good, but I think they're probably a 3-loss team in the Big 12.
They were probably
Kansas State is
6, 7, maybe.
Yeah,
5.
where's Kansas? Yeah. Kansas State's 5, right? 5 or 6. Wherever Kansas State is, I think that's where Boise State is. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
Maybe not their defense, but they're close. Me versus Echo Chamber. Good. I love that name. Didn't the Big 12 want the Big 12 after dark time slot? Well, it's not after dark. And yes, BYU likes the time slot. You're missing my point. My point is the Big 12's trying to put these together so that people are watching them. And I don't care, especially BYU. Yeah, they're getting a little tired of the night games, but you do 5 out of 6 home games at night games, they play well generally. But you have to do it in the right order. You can't do it after the Holy War. Either make it at the end of the season, I like what you said, or put a bye after it, because after that game, both those teams were toasted.
The Big 12's biggest selling point is they can cover all 4 windows.
Time zones, right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they've covered them well this season, by the way.
Yes. And that is what Yormark has pitched to Fox, what he's pitched to ESPN. It is you have a window, we can fill it.
And the problem is they're not being rewarded for it. I guess that's my point is, they've stepped up. The Big 12 has stepped up to play those games, and ESPN's not giving them any credit for it.
But Fox has shown a ton of primetime Big 12 games.
Oh, Fox is. I didn't say anything about Fox. I said ESPN.
Yeah, ESPN has kind of let us down.
Yeah,
Fox is saying, give us those games.
I think Fox has done really well. I think Utah's been on Fox twice this year. I think BYU played on Fox once.
WVU back-to-back weeks, K-State and Iowa State on primetime Fox.
Yeah, I think the Fox window is that what is that 6:30? That 6:30 Eastern.
It would be 7:30. The 7:30.
7:30 Eastern. Is that what it is?
That primetime window.
Right. Yeah, that's been a good window for the Big 12. It has. Sam Kim got the Phoenix on his logo there. I like that. Big 12 is the Big 10 minus Oregon, Ohio State, and even Penn State. Talent and recruiting matters. Big 12 spending money, boy. If you're not tracking what the Big 12 is doing to stay relevant, you're really not up on it. Big 12 absolutely spending money to compete. Not every school. I can't speak for every school, but the ones that want to play football, you can tell they're committed. Mr. Monkey says egregiously overrated. SMU, Tennessee, and Alabama. SMU is not overrated. Mr. Monkey says.
Tennessee isn't either. Tennessee is.
I think Tennessee lost their quarterback though, right?
No,
so
Texas
they be
did.
out of it.
Texas.
No, Tennessee lost it the week before.
Tennessee yeah. You're right.
So both yes. Texas and Tennessee, the two T universities, lost their quarterbacks, and they're still in it. Alabama.
The two most overrated teams: Alabama,
yeah,
and also Tulane. Seriously, K-State beat Tulane, guys.
Yeah, I don't.
K-State beat Tulane.
Yeah,
and Tulane is 7 spots ahead of K-State.
It's brutal.
And they have 2 losses this season.
What is going on? I just don't understand.
The Tulane thing doesn't make any sense to me.
None of it makes any sense. Devil Frog, the original, the OG Mafia member. Good to see you, Devil Frog. At what point is ESPN in breach of their Big 12 contract?
As long as they show games and send a check, they won't be.
I don't think there is I wish there was a breach there, Devil Frog, but it's obviously there isn't. Because it's a game show. Mm-hmm. The CFP is a game show. They can invite whoever they want. They can invite a team off the street if they wanted to. There's no checks and balances. There's nobody that's controlling them at all.
Guys, I've got a question for you guys. Okay, so TNT is going to get a playoff game this year. They sub-licensed the game from ESPN.
Okay.
How much do you want 2 games, Mr. Gayak?
This year or next year?
Yes, this year.
This year. Okay. How much do you want to bet that the Big 12 is going to be on TNT for that playoff game?
I would agree with you.
Oh, yeah, they do. 100%.
It's like 90% sure, right? That TNT is probably going to pick that game up in the future. So just get prepared for that, okay?
And I think TNT could be the partner moving forward with Warner Brothers, Max, the whole ball of wax. I think that definitely could be the next level. Maybe a Warner Brothers mix with an Amazon. I could see a partnership like that, and losing ESPN, because right now I don't see the advantage to having ESPN as the main partner right now.
Have to have
their people in studio are dissing them. I just nobody can show me an advantage.
The only person that does anything positive towards the Big 12 is Pat McAfee. And it is more West Virginia centered.
Yeah, it's West Virginia.
Yeah,
he's not
than the conference as a whole.
No, the guy, what's his name? He was the quarterback for Alabama, right? He has been advocating since BYU was just that first.
Greg
McElroy. Greg McElroy. He works for ESPN. He's been a huge advocate for the Big 12. So they have him out there. They're just it's hard to get to him. Antoine Codes, valuable member of the Mafia. Thank you very much, Antoine, for being a member. ESPN does not care if the Big 12 gets the 4 seed. They only care about an extra SEC team getting in. Yeah, I think you could make that.
The problem is if you look at who's available, those 4 Big 10 teams, they're locks. They're in. Notre Dame's getting in.
Yes.
Then you got the 5 conference champions getting in. I mean,
4 Big 10 teams. I mean, I can't debate with you on that.
Yeah.
4 Big 10 teams are going to get in the field, aren't they?
Oregon,
Indiana,
Penn State,
Ohio State, Penn State.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
it's been like that for a while, though.
Yeah.
I think we knew that was going to happen a long
time. I didn't think Indiana. I just had a hard time seeing Indiana actually get in. We'll see if they can sneak in still.
They're 10-1. Their last game is against Purdue. They still have a somewhat outside shot of being in the Big 10 championship game. That's Ohio State loses.
If Washington beats Oregon.
And if no. If Ohio State loses and
Washington plays Oregon this weekend.
Yeah. But yeah, if Ohio State
haven't beat them in 4 years,
they would go into the championship game against Oregon. Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, ESPN is the worst business partner of all time. While they're certainly not showing loyalty, at all to the Big 12. ESPN is saying Alabama is the best 3-loss team ever. Yes, of course they are. Big Lubbock says,
I told you
I
guys 3
hate
weeks ago.
ESPN, guys.
I told you guys 3 weeks ago, start watching everybody starting to rally around a 3-loss SEC team getting into the CFP. And like I said, this morning, Heather Dinich was right there on Pat McAfee's show, and she was talking it up left, right, and sideways.
They've been talking about it for weeks. It's
Yes.
not a surprise at all. The Big Lubbock, K-State beat Tulane, and ASU beat K-State, so ASU should be ranked higher than Tulane. Don't make it make sense. Big Lubbock, you can't make it make sense. It doesn't work. FF18 buffs. So Oklahoma leaves the Big 12 and crushes Alabama in 1 year. So how far apart truly are the leagues? Oklahoma was not a Big 12 juggernaut in 21 to 23. I think they're more close than they've ever been. This year is proving that NIL and transfer portal have changed college football forever. You guys want to add anything to that?
I was about to say Brett Venable's seat, if he lost to Alabama, yeah, he probably would have got walking papers at the end of this year.
Yeah, I don't know. His defense has stepped up this year.
Yeah,
so
but
all he's really needed is a quarterback that can play every down.
They're 6-5.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If they had a quarterback that could play every down, I think they'd be probably 2 games better. Next year, I'd watch out for Oklahoma. Sam Kim, one way or another, SEC gets 4 teams. Yeah, unless Bama loses again, that would be a shocker if Bama lost again.
Weird things happen in the Iron Bowl.
Let's see. Sam Kim, Washington beats Oregon. Not likely given the recent history. Oregon hasn't beaten Washington in 4 years. So I'm not sure. Yeah.
Wow. I thought it was longer than that.
It's 1,000 and something days. They haven't beat Washington. So I'm not sure because they beat them twice last year. Anyway, I don't know, Sam.
I know Washington. I thought Washington had like a 6-year run on Oregon or something like that.
Look. Historically, Oregon's never been the
run. Yeah, it was a 6-game run.
Yeah, that's probably right. Yeah, that's probably right. All I know is that it's a manufactured rivalry. It's only about 25 years old. So, whatever. Since Phil Knight started pumping money into the program, that's when they become relevant. Let's see here. Get some more. Clint Moses, compared to summertime, Big 12 morale has dropped. There's no doubt about it, Clint. You have got that.
Agreed.
Got that down pat. Mr. Monkey says, what is Tennessee's big win? Does Tennessee have a big win? Did they beat Ole Miss?
They beat hold on. Let me pull that up real quick.
I think they beat Ole Miss, didn't they?
Yes, they did.
That would be a big win, in my opinion. I think Ole Miss is good. I just think Lane Kiffin.
They've got 3 losses, though.
Yeah, but I don't know. I just like Jackson Dart. I just wish, he didn't throw picks. He throws 3 picks a week now. So I don't know what's going on there.
Beat Alabama. Yeah, that's it.
Ole Miss and Alabama?
No. I'm talking about Tennessee.
Oh, okay. Who did they beat? Just Alabama? They didn't beat Ole Miss?
They didn't play Ole Miss. They played Mississippi State and housed them.
Well, Mississippi State's not good, though. Yeah,
so they beat the mighty Crimson Tide, the 3-loss Crimson Tide, the 8-3 Crimson Tide.
What was you were asking about Ole Miss?
I thought Ole Miss and Tennessee played. That's all I said. That's all I was asking. Okay. I was thinking of something else then. Clint Moses follows up saying, if you can't beat the G5s, then add them. Hey, we've been advocating for Washington State, Oregon State, and Boise State for almost 2 solid years, Ute and I. So I don't know what else we could do. We're doing everything we can to promote the Pac-12 and those schools.
Clint, K-State beat Tulane. K-State beat Tulane.
Make it make sense. That's all I'm saying. Somebody make it make sense.
It won't.
It's recency bias, everybody. Just say it out loud. It is recency bias. Notre Dame lost at home to Northern Illinois. How does that qualify them for the 5th seed? Somebody tell me, please.
And their schedule has been soft.
It's soft as it's probably worse than Boise State's. I don't even. Yeah, you just can't make it. The point is, you can't make it make sense. I was being facetious. There is no making it make sense. Oregon State versus Wazoo, damn near we had 1 million viewers. This is on the CW.
Yes.
Most
Really?
viewed games on the CW, competing against Bama Sooners time slot. To be clear, it averaged 660. It peaked at 990 something. So almost a million at one point were watching it, but consistently, I don't know how that's measured. Do you know how what the duration has to be? It was like 650 or 660 for the entire game.
Yeah, there's there's a few minutes that you have to be watching for. Like it's
Okay.
like you can't just scroll past the channel, right? And get
Right.
a view.
Okay.
So like if you're actually watching it for 10 minutes,
Right. Okay.
averaging out.
It was like 10 or 15. I can't remember. Bob talked about it a couple,
Did he?
like a year and something ago, whenever
Okay.
he was talking about.
We need after the season. Bob's going to be back on the show.
Yeah.
He doesn't like coming on during the season. Glenn Lumen checking in from the Philippines. Good to see you, Glenn. Thanks for being here with us. Good morning from the Philippines. Good morning to you too. Tony Lawson. I just accidentally clicked his off. Tony Lawson had a comment a long time ago saying Boise State's loss was a good loss.
I hate that term.
What in the hell is that anyway? When did this get invented? A good loss.
It was something a couple years ago. Had nothing. It was with basketball.
It's ridiculous.
Whenever they were doing tournament seeding in basketball years ago, probably 10 years ago, the term good loss came up. And this is whenever the Big East had 16 teams. They would beat up each other, like Georgetown was playing St. John's and stuff like that. And it was a term used then.
Okay.
And
well,
I hate the term. Hate it.
Have you heard so Moan, and he's not on the show tonight, but I heard him on the show yesterday with Pickles and Becky talking about the good loss, right? The Indiana good loss. And so Indiana's strength of schedule, strength of record was almost 100 before the Ohio State game.
106, yeah.
Yeah, everyone was knocking it. You played nobody. And then they play Ohio State. They get trounced by Ohio State. And their strength of schedule jumps up to 50 or 45 or something. And everyone's like, look, it's a good loss now. Look at this schedule.
I'm going to defend Indiana's schedule. They had last year's national champions on their schedule. Yeah, and this year they're not good. And last year's runner-up on their schedule. And yes, this year they're not good either. So
look, we need to go back to divisions.
Yeah.
We need to drop this crap where you're just grabbing games.
Pods. We'll have a pod playoff.
You got to do something. Yeah, got to go to 16 teams. Nobody gets a bye. The best 16 team gets in. Everybody has conference playoffs, and you pick the best teams that come out of those playoff games.
Utah, BYU, Arizona State in a 14 pod.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And if you go teams, if we go to 20 teams, Colorado's in that pod, and now you've got regions and the Big 12 set. 4 100%. Of 5, and that's why we need to blow the ACC up. All right. Daniel Earlcar, sorry. Hi, Daniel and Wild and Bomber. Good to have you here, Earl. Thanks for showing up. Go BYU. He and I are still bummed because Aaron Roderick still has a job. Mr. Monkey says, RE Tennessee, they also lost to Arkansas, who also lost to last place Oklahoma. You can't make it make sense. It doesn't. It's a waste of time. Bob Swanger says Washington, Oregon have played 116 times. That's true, Bob. I didn't say they hadn't played a lot. What I said is they weren't the rivalry. Rivalry was the Apple Cup. Oregon and Washington were never cross-border rivals until it was manufactured in the last of the Pac-10 and then the Pac-12 once Phil Knight started giving money to Oregon. Oregon used to be an auto win for anybody that went up to Eugene. They were horrible in the 80s and 90s. It wasn't until Achilles Smith, I think it was 96 or 97, Phil Knight started pumping money into the program, and it turned.
And Moen's not here to cringe hearing that name.
Who? Phil
Achilles
Knight?
Smith.
Oh,
No, Achilles
why
Smith.
would he do that?
He went to the Cincinnati Bengals.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. He also says Bomber, the rankings are BS in my opinion. ASU should be higher. Yeah, we agree with you, Earl. You probably joined a little bit late.
16.
Jimmy Otson, valuable member of the Mafia family. Good to have you, Jimmy. Washington-Oregon rivalry doesn't have a name or title. It's just built on pure hatred for each other. And I would say there's also jealousy. There's a lot of jealousy there from Washington fans, who, by the way, have 2 or 3 national championships. So Oregon doesn't have one of those. So I'm a Husky fan, and I just shake my head at Oregon. But it's for probably different reasons than other people do.
Now that it's in the Big Ten, the game needs a name, though, right? Like the Northwest Bloodbath.
Yeah,
the Northwest. I mean, Jimmy, you gotta come up with a good name.
Go out, get at it, Jimmy. Get us a good name, and we'll start propagating it, getting it out to the ether. I'll put it on Twitter.
That's right.
FF18 Buffs. Hey guys, have you ever thought about doing a Big 12 program whip around and have one person from each program give you a brief 1-2 minute update on what's happening at that program each week? We haven't. Part of the reason is organizing more than 4 or 5 people is very, very difficult. It's very, very hard to do. You're talking about 16. There's a lot of work involved there. And honestly, for 1 to 2 minutes, you're not going to get that much out of it. So I would love if you're volunteering, Buffs, if you want to come on and help us represent Colorado, I will give you time. You can come on, join the show. You can participate. Send me a DM and we'll talk about it. I would love that.
I think he's talking about the current staff that we have here, having all 8 of us on at one time.
No, there's not.
There's no way.
It's still not enough, and those people don't care about those schools, so it wouldn't make any difference. You and I can do that as much as you can. I don't think to really do it, you have to have somebody that represents the school. There's a reason there's not 2 BYU guys here. This is on purpose. This is by design, right? We didn't bring on. It was never going to have another BYU guy.
I remember watching it whenever it was the Holy Rival show.
That's right. That's where we started. Right. And we still are Holy Rival show. Devil Frog, close only accounts in horseshoes and hand grenades. Boy, that's right. That's true. That's true.
That is right.
That is
Boise. Bring it on, Boise. We'll play Boise State in the playoffs.
I would love that.
Would be favorite over Boise. Like, let's just think about that. The theoretical betting odds would have any Big 12.
I think so. Sam Kim. Sam, what school do you represent? Can you, in the comments, would you put that down there just so we know I have a reference? What school or conference you're representing? It helps. Then I can have a dialogue with you. I feel bad for Big 12 honks, but reality is reality. Talent is talent. Can a Big 12 underdog win a playoff game? Sure, but would you bet on it? It just depends who the matchup is. Absolutely. Some of these teams are really good on the road.
I think if Arizona State has to go to Columbus, Arizona State does have a
no, they don't.
Decent chance.
Not the Arizona State team that just barely beat BYU. It doesn't.
Yeah, Arizona State.
They would get destroyed. BYU would get destroyed. Cyclones are the only team that could compete, and even then, Iowa State would struggle. I think
that they could win in Columbus.
I don't think there's
bring up a good point,
team.
Sam. Like, this is what we've been talking about all year long on this channel. Is like, recruiting rankings or something, like team quality and everything, propaganda something. Hey, Big 12, the only way that they actually get respect is if they win playoff games.
That's true. That's true.
And if Arizona State were to go to Ohio State and get the doors blown off them, this narrative will persist. And you'd be 100% right about that. If Arizona State were to upset Ohio State at Ohio State, that's a paradigm shift. And that's what this conference needs. And that's what we have to have. That's why a 4 seed is so big. Because we don't want to play in Columbus or Autzen. We want to have a neutral site game in Arizona. So it's Arizona State, Boise State, or whoever.
Right, the Fiesta Bowl, right? Isn't that the 4 seeds, the Fiesta Bowl this year?
Yeah, it's like perception.
Yeah,
I think so, yes.
Bob Swanger, I don't always agree with you guys, but you are correct about Tulane and Big 12 not getting the 4 seed. There you go. Bob, I appreciate the fact that you still are a member. You still watch the show, even though you don't always agree with us, Bob. Thank you very much. because we're about dialogue here, not just steamrolling over people. We want to have a conversation.
And agreeing's boring.
It is boring. I agree with that 100%. Clint Moses, in my opinion, Big 12 teams should hire new ADs that fit Brett Yormark. There are some that fit him, but not enough. I agree with you 100%, Clint. But I mean, let's be perfectly honest. The Pac-12 hasn't wrapped itself in glory this year either, right? Oregon State was supposed to be the team. Washington State came out and got beat by Boise State. You guys have had chances this year, and your teams were decimated in the offseason. It's understandable. Nobody's pointing fingers. You guys, the loss of the conference and everything, that was a joke. So rebuilding the pack, you guys has to be front of mind. It just can't be Boise State. It has to be at least the three of you, and maybe bring along a fourth team. UNLV's not part of the Pac-12. I don't know. The AAC 4, if you could get Tulane, Memphis, Texas State, or UTSA, and USF, I think that conference is extremely strong. But we'll have to see. Pac-12 really screwed up when they misfired with UNLV, not getting UNLV. That was a big, big mistake. Devil Frog end out of conference schedules, adopt a 4-6 team conference playoff tournament.
No.
End out of conference. So you have to. One thing you only want to, if you can play 8, let's go back to 8 conference games and start scheduling Mercer. Why aren't we doing that? That's what the SEC does to get us away with it. Why can't we do it?
I like having certain out of conference games.
I like out of conference games.
Backyard Brawl is out of conference.
We wish it was in conference.
Yeah, I know, but Georgia Tech, that's always a fun game. Clemson, South Carolina, that's a fun game. You could find a ton of fun games that are out of conference that you got to keep an out of conference schedule. I mean, just for the fun games.
Yeah, I don't think you play all conference games. I don't think the 4-6 team play. I'm not sure what that would look like. Maybe in the off season we can explore what that would look like. Devil Frog. I'm not totally picturing it, but right now, right now the SEC's saying, why should we play anybody else? If we're going to beat each other up, let's beat each other up, and then we'll just send the best 4 or 5 teams to the tournament every year.
And if they win, that's a good point that they're making. If they lose, then that's a problem for the SEC even, right? If the Big Ten starts winning a bunch of playoff games and titles, that's a serious problem.
Well, and you said it last week, all the money's in the Big Ten right now. We're seeing it left and right. Big Ten teams are spending money. And we're not hearing a lot of money coming out of SEC teams. Not to say they're not doing it, but it's not being advertised.
Rich boosters in Big Ten. Rich dang boosters.
Probably the richest conference in the country.
Yes.
Yeah.
A&M reportedly had $35 million in NIL.
I bet you Oregon's close to 50.
I would.
Wasn't Oregon 30-40? Yeah, in that range.
Yeah,
too.
I would say Oregon probably, and
they have
A&M
to be the most
close. Yeah.
They have to.
Easily.
Oregon this year, they bought a defense. So we'll have to see. Stormy Cyclone, the CFP beauty pageant is almost a bad joke. Can you imagine if the NFL was ran this way with the networks controlling everything? I had this conversation with Bob Thompson several weeks ago about if college football was organized like the NFL, it would be the most valuable brand franchise in the world. It would be right behind for soccer in the Premier League. That's basically what it would be competing against. If you took the top 40 to, that number could go as high as 60, but you took all those brands and just put them in a league, it'd be more valuable than the NFL. That's how but it'll never organize that way. It'll never be organized that way because of the conferences and the egos and the money involved in keeping it separate. That will never happen.
Super League.
Yeah, it's not going to happen. Not the way that we would not the way we would like to organize it.
Here's the thing:
if it would be good.
If a Super League was going to happen, you always talk about Ohio State where they still have to fund Purdue. They still have
Well,
to
we
fund
don't say that.
Northwestern.
Moen says it.
No.
Yeah.
Ute has said it before talking about that. You don't hear Ohio State wanting to go independent. You don't hear Michigan wanting to go independent. They like, and the reason why, it's safety and security. They know what they have. If they go as a total free agent, that means that they have to come up with their own TV deal
Yeah, it
every
would
couple
never
of years.
happen.
It would be a big mess.
They would never do that. Everything that Moen says about the Big Ten, the way it's operated, is absolutely a fact. We just look at it from the outside and say it's foolish. We can't understand why the top 6 brands are supporting the rest of the 18. The math does not work out that way, and yet that's where you end up. So I don't know, but certainly I think the SEC is set, and I don't think they want to go past 16 at this point. They don't see an advantage to adding more teams, I don't think. Certainly not at 65, 70 million a year.
No, and there's just no brands that are even on par.
No.
Like Clemson and FSU, as we discussed in videos over the last 6 months, like there's like the median and average level SEC teams are not a lift.
Yeah.
There's no brands out there left unless you're Notre Dame that lifts anything for SEC.
And Notre Dame's not joined the SEC.
Nope.
Notre Dame's not joining anybody because they don't have to, because they're being treated like a conference themselves.
I mean, what's UNC or the state of North Carolina work to the SEC? They're already in it. They already have their games shown there. They're being shown in Charlotte and Raleigh. Same thing with if they were in the state of Virginia. They're already being shown in the DC market. They don't care. They're already the big boys in that area.
I think what we figured out is that the realignment bug that everybody had for roughly 18 to 24 months, depending on when you started it, certainly for the Pac-12, it started 2 years ago. At this point, that fever has broken. We've had an election. The economy is where it's at. The world is in a different place politically and socioeconomically and everything else. Realignment, for realignment's sake, is done. And the era of massive deals like the Big Ten got and the SEC was able to secure a little bit before that, I don't think are going to happen again. They're going to be a lot more cobbled together with multiple partners, and I don't think the value is going to be near as high. $8 billion over, what was it, 6 years? What was that number? It was some ridiculous number the Big Ten
$1 billion
got.
per year.
That's just insane.
Two maybe.
For 6 years. It's just crazy. I don't think those I don't see anything changing unless the entire world changes over again, which it could.
Here's the thing that's been shocking to me. Like, I knew that the numbers would probably get better, TV numbers,
right,
from last year. But the way these made the super conference, SEC and Big Ten, the numbers are ridiculous. Like they're like getting like around 8 to 12 million viewers for big games,
like NFL games.
Exactly, like low end NFL games and everything, and like that's just a different world of money. So like I was thinking the same way that you were thinking too, Nate. Like, but looking at how the numbers have gone, it looks like a lot more money could be on the table if you keep putting those kind of numbers up. Like a 10 million view game is nuts. Like that should warrant a ton of money for a channel like a CBS or the NBC, ESPN to have on it. 10 million people watching it, for 10, 15 minutes or longer. That's a lot of advertising dollars and everything. So the money's not escaping. Like the bigger issue probably is like the sport. Like this football, youth football and stuff, does it continue growing and everything? Or does it decline off based on injury concerns? That's always been a looming issue with the whole sport. I don't think that's going to be enough, though, to push it out because people love the sport so much to watch it. So it's probably going to grow in value even more. Probably in 2030.
I agree with you what you're saying, except for that doesn't account for the bottom 2/3 of all of college football. That only counts for the top third of brands. The 8-10 million games are with Ohio State. They're with Colorado. They're with Alabama. They're not with, and you could just, not to demean anybody, but here we were just talking about a top game on the WB for Boise State was, and even that number was less than a million viewers. And that's the best team in the league, and maybe the best team that's ever come out of the G6 to compete for a championship. And yet they're getting less than a million on a national broadcast. So I understand what you're saying, but the numbers, they're top heavy. So that's true if they cut off the other 2/3 that aren't bringing value.
Well,
If you're
they
not
basically
averaging
done that as is, right? Like what do you, like that's what they're doing when they're propaganda for
well,
the
now
SEC.
they are, yeah. Now they are.
Right?
That's
And
part
like,
of the messaging. Yes.
and that's exactly what
that's right.
they're just going to try to butt everybody else out and
That's right.
propaganda more the SEC and Big Ten. That's
I agree
exactly
with
the
you.
fight that Yormark and we're all fighting here.
Yes.
Because like that's where the business is going. That's where the best bang for the buck is. I hate to say it, guys, like that is.
Yep.
If you and I were doing business and we were trying to advertise games, we would want to get those big games too. That's how.
Absolutely.
It's good business. It's views and everything. So it's expensive. It's very expensive. It's going to be more expensive and stuff. And that's the fight. We can't let that get out of control.
Big 12 needs to do everything it can to get as much as possible the median viewership for games around 2 million every game.
Yes.
They need to get 2 million to be the bare minimum. And you build on 2 million.
The problem is that ESPN2 of Fox Sports.
Right, exactly. Which is why the WB and the TNT thing is such a big deal. I agree with you.
And those are difficult because whenever you're sitting there saying, okay, well, they're on the primetime slot on ESPN2. How many other games are on?
Right.
Quite a number. Oh, yeah, by the way, they might get 750.
Yeah.
If they get 1 million, it's outstanding. And that's the problem that you have. You have so many windows out there that not everybody can watch every game.
How many Big 12 fans are watching football on a Saturday? Like, seriously, if you had to throw a ballpark number, yeah, we all are. We know that. Yeah. But it's got to be more than a couple million Big 12 regional fans. I think that the Big 12, just in the day and stuff for these games. Like, I mean, like if what that tells me is two things are happening. First off, SEC and Big 10 folks aren't watching Big 12 football.
Yes,
not at all. They could care less about watching it. And Big 12 folks are watching Big 10 and SEC football. Yeah, they need to cut down on that and watch more Big 12 football. That's exactly what needs to happen.
I don't. I show my picture-in-picture up on Twitter all the time, so it shows. I mean, heck, well, I was watching Division II playoff game, which that means I really need help. But yeah, I mean, no, I was. It was Ashland, Ohio playing Charleston, West Virginia, Division II playoffs, first round. Okay. Yes, I need help.
Okay. I want to get this comment from Daniel Dilly, who's been a member, and we really appreciate it, Daniel. It says, want to thank Wild Ute for giving his blessing to Isun Tafa so he could come to Washington. Hey, it's not just Ute. You screwed BYU too.
Dude,
that guy, Corner Canyon, just down the road from my house. He was the #1 lineman in the state of Utah, his #1 player in the state of Utah, going to Washington. I had hopes that BYU is going to write a check, but Washington came in and threw a bag at him. I wonder what that number is. I bet it's going to be around 2 million. That would be my guess.
The thing that I hate the most is that Washington has no links in the state of Utah anymore.
No.
And they still pluck a kid like this.
It doesn't matter.
Sucks. So bad for Utah and BYU when that's happening.
I agree.
Be real about it.
I agree with you. Sergeant Pickles checking in, member for 15 months and a contributing partner. Pickles, I was thinking about you today. Thank you so much for being here and everything you do. You guys' show on Mondays is doing great. Just keep up the hard work. The Big Ten, you guys are going nowhere but up. Evening all, hate week is upon us. Go Dogs. So he says he's calling it Hate Week, Washington, Oregon. There is no name for that game. If there is a name, it's now made up. So yeah, anyway. Sorry, I said WB, it's the CW. Thank you, Steve-O, for correcting me. I appreciate that. I said WB Networks, I meant CW. Thank you for correcting me, Steve-O. Bob Swinger says, I also agree. I watch mostly the Big Ten, so there's somebody.
And you're not alone. Most people do because they view it as bigger time football, guys.
Yeah.
Bigger time rankings, the propaganda's there and stuff. That's what the games are talked about. They're featured in the best slots, so it's set up that way. But like, how do you fight it? That's what like the question is, like, what do we do as Big 12 fans that feel like we're getting left behind? How do you fight that? And like, it's just, I just don't watch enough. Just don't watch as much SEC and Big 10 football, and watch all the Big 12 games you can. And everybody that supports your conference, do the same thing.
That's part of the reason we started the channel, was to be the proselytizers for the Big 12. We're out here for a reason. We're not doing it just for our health. I promise you that. Keep chopping, checking in Rutgers style. That's a fair statement. I rarely watch Big 12 or ACC. Too many big games to watch. Look, you know what? If you're a Big 10 guy, I understand why you're watching Big 10 football.
Right.
Nobody is questioning you guys watching your conference. You know, Pickles says the same thing. You know, I don't have enough time to watch anything but Big 10. That makes sense. That's your conference. Totally understand that. Who we're talking to is Big 12 people.
Yes.
There are millions of people out there that are Big 12 people. People have friends and family, and we need to be doing this together, all of us, to get out and watch these games. I try to catch every window Big 12 game every Saturday. Don't always
that's what we need,
but I try.
Right. And like, if we ever wanted to get the goal of 2 million per game, which is a stretchy goal, which would be amazing for the next TV contract, you need like really just a huge swath of Big 12 folks just saying, we're just going to watch and just drill in and watch these games. Like, no matter what, put the 4 box on, right? Customize it, put all the Big 12 games on, and quit following the SEC game, the main SEC game and stuff. Just look at that on the ticker. Don't watch that. Don't give that a view. Give it the Big 12 game a view. That's the fight.
Pickle says it will always be just the Washington-Oregon game. Yeah, it's a nameless rivalry because it's not a rivalry, people. All other names such as Cascadia Clash are made-up marketing garbage. I agree with Pickles and I come from the same thinking. Okay, Laura Weiss brings up a question. So we didn't talk about it earlier, but Mac Brown did not retire as we anticipated. He got sacked today. If you didn't catch that in the news, Mac Brown is out at North Carolina. One of the few national championship coaches that is still coaching, to be honest. Most of the current national championship coaches are doing other things than coaching football right now. The ones that are still alive. But Matt Campbell, the rumor is to North Carolina. Boy, this is what I think. One, I think Matt Campbell's a fantastic coach. I think he's earned what he's gotten. But if he has a chance to go to North Carolina and doesn't go, he might be stuck at Iowa State the rest of his life. I'm not sure he's going to get another invite.
I mean, I think he's happy in Ames. He's been there, what?
A long time. 8 years? 7 years?
Something. I think he was hired, I want to say 2017. Somebody's going to correct me on that.
That's 7 years ago, if that's 8 years ago. So
yeah. So, and he's had chances to take other jobs. He's still there. I think I think a lot of it is that he's comfortable there. And if he wins 10 games, guess what? He's going to probably end up getting a statue built out in front of Jack Trice.
Since when did Iowa State become a lesser program than UNC in football? Like, why the freak would you go coach a UNC in football?
I think
Mac Brown was garbage.
No, I think it has nothing to do. I think it's you wouldn't rather be at North Carolina than at Iowa State.
Well, that's why I wanted to pull up his basically resume.
Yeah, I would rather be at North Carolina. They're going to be able to
check
pay
out
him
his
more.
history. Okay, he's 44, born in Ohio.
Yep.
He played at Pittsburgh, Mount Union, and then he coached at Bowling Green, Ohio, Mount Union, Ohio, Bowling Green, Ohio, Toledo in Ohio, Toledo, Iowa State. This is a Midwest guy.
Yep.
He's got – what recruiting ties does he have to the East Coast or North Carolina? None. I don't get this at all, guys. This makes no sense to me.
I would go to North Carolina in a heartbeat. I'm not sure about the recruiting piece. I don't know about any of that. That would be a dream destination, though. It's a wonderful place to live. North Carolina is a growing state. Demographics are huge. You're going to get paid a bag full of money. I think he's probably making 6 or 7. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. At Iowa State, that would be my guess, 6 or 7. They'll probably give him a 6-year deal for, near $50 million. even 40 million. I would take that job in a heartbeat. Now, you bring up good points. Is he going to be successful? Can he recruit? Those are all great questions.
And
you got to think of it this way. In that area, you're fighting 30 colleges for talent. And it's tough. At Iowa State, yes, you're fighting a lot of Midwestern areas, and you're in Texas, but you can, that same pitch that you have for Iowa State, you can do at North Carolina. But here's the thing: until Mac Brown showed up at UNC, that football program was hot garbage.
It's still hot garbage.
Yeah, I don't think that.
Well, they're 6-5. I mean, Mac Brown, this is his second run through at UNC. It's not. Mac Brown. I want to say I saw that he was 73.
I just don't think you can compare the programs.
No.
Iowa
State's on their Iowa State's on the way up too. Okay. Rocco Betts still has 2 more years left.
Yeah, this has nothing to do with, you're missing my point. I don't think it has anything to do with the football teams themselves. It's the program I'm talking about and where it's located. North Carolina's on the coast. If you imagine North Carolina and you imagine Iowa State in your mind's eye, unless there's something you've fallen in love with in the Midwest, usually those greener pastures in those other states. I'm just saying. I'm not saying he's going to get the job. It's just a rumor. But if I had the chance, I think if he doesn't take this window, if he doesn't go anywhere this window, he might not get another one. I'm not sure they're going to keep coming back to his door. And he still hasn't won 10 games yet.
He's what was he, 44? He's still young.
He's 44.
Yeah, but he hasn't won 10 games. This year might be the first year he could win 10 games.
Yeah, he will this year.
But 9 games. Anyways, this is silly.
Yeah,
I understand what you guys are saying. I get it.
Yeah,
I think the money is going to be pretty similar because you got to keep in mind, like North Carolina, as far as the athletic department, they're making as much as Iowa State in that crap ACC contract, unless the administration is going to fund a huge portion of that contract. Like Matt's getting paid like $4 million or more a year. It's not like
let's see what happens. Let's see what happens, who they hire, and what the details are on the contract, and then we can do some stare and compare. That'll be a good conversation. To Town Hawk says, I'm so mad they made BYU ASU game at the same time as KU Colorado. I think both teams would have had a bigger number if they weren't stacked against each other. That said, 6.2 million is awesome. I did not. What numbers are you talking about? Has the numbers
TV
come out?
Numbers.
TV numbers for both those games came out. Yeah.
Oh, and what are they?
So yeah, he's right. The 6.2 million is a massive number for
which game?
Colorado KU.
Okay, and what was the BYU ASU game? Because I said that was going to be
1.3.
Oh yeah, they got killed. I thought that was going to be closer to 2.5 to 3.
Yeah, so, got 1.3.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that you're right. To Town Hawk, they did get jobbed. I thought that number was going to be higher as well.
Picture in picture. That's how I'll watch the games.
Yeah, well, or you do YouTube TV like Moen does and watch 4.
Yep. Quad box.
Jimmy Otson again checking in, saying we need more respect for the Big 12. The Big 10 has a conference video that literally flies over the Big 12 states. Yeah, we talked about that in the preseason. The Big 10 knows how to advertise. There's no doubt about it. Big 12 needs to do a better job. They're trying. I know they're trying, but it's still a pretty steep hill to climb. David Frame, strength of schedules no longer matters like it used to. Basically, everyone's getting encouraged to play bad teams out of conference. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens after this year. Yeah, I wish we had a sounder. We need a
let him cook.
David Frame, you've got it right, baby. We know it. Steve-O, I think quite a few SEC and Big 10 fans watch the noon Eastern and 10:15 Eastern Big 12 games. Tell you what, BYU's done really well in that 8:15, 8:30 slot. They have. It's true. Sorry, 10:30 Eastern. It's just, it's so late. There is a cap. They've gone over 2 million a couple times, but there's only so many people who are going to be up that late on the East Coast.
But they want to fill that window. The Big 12 doesn't.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
And Yormark sells it. And yes. And I'll be honest with you, BYU probably gets the most eyeballs historically. Colorado was never good until Prime showed up. BYU was the get for that mountain time zone to get for people to actually turn on TVs.
I think now BYU and Utah basically draw the same. Generally, their games, they're within 100 or 200,000, have been for decades. So that's not new. The Pac-12 did give Utah a boost for 12 years, but I think you're seeing now they're coming back to where they've always been, which is very similar.
BYU and Utah are going to be the top 4 of the Big 12 in viewership this year, guys.
I think that's true. Right behind Colorado.
Colorado's in this world of its own, but it's going to be K-State, BYU, Utah right there. And I don't know exactly how it's going to shake up in 2, 3, 4 spot for this year.
I think that's something that we need to learn from, though, right? There's intelligence there. They need to start doing programming decisions and other things based around some of that stuff. I think the rivalry talk really needs to be readdressed. I know why they did it this year, but I honestly felt like it's killed them now at the end of the season. It could have been so much different. All right, we've got about 5 minutes left. So if you're watching us live, if you want to get your final comments in, please make it a super chat. Other than that, we're going to just fly through some of the other comments we still have here in our comment bank, and we'll go from there. I appreciate everybody that's been watching us tonight. I'm going to take off this comment so you know one last time. Make sure you're following all of us on Twitter. Make sure you're subscribing on YouTube. Give us a thumbs up. Leave us a comment or question. Thumbs up's free. Doesn't hurt anything. Give that thing. Just click that button and let us know how we're doing. And last but not least, consider becoming a member by hitting that $sign and either giving a super chat or becoming a long-term member of the Mafia family. Get to a few more comments here. Let's see. To Town Hawk, Prime is a big draw, but I think there's an appetite to watch KU's death march over the Big 12 contenders. I can't wait to tailgate in Waco. Just so everybody knows, Kansas is the first team, I think in college football history that was under 500 that beat 3 ranked teams in consecutive weeks.
Correct.
I think they're the first team to do that in all of college football history. Tens of thousands of games.
I can't remember if it was Brett McMurphy or somebody like that showed that stat.
Yeah. So I hate that BYU lost to him, but now you look at it and you're like, okay, now I see it. So we'll see. Kansas certainly next year, building for next year. We hoped it would be this year, but keep chopping. At Stormy, sorry, just offering my opinion. Not that it means much. I think the strategy for the Big 12 is to find time slots they can dominate. Yes. I'd love to watch more Big 12, but it needs to be the only game on. That can't happen on a Saturday, which means now you're talking about you're watching other days. You're either doing games on Sundays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, Fridays. I don't think anybody competes on a Monday.
Until for the longest time, the Big East had a Thursday game. And this is before the NFL.
That was before the NFL.
NFL had their Thursday game.
Yeah.
And WVU got a ton of eyeballs on that game because it was the only football game on.
Right.
And now
BYU and Utah used to dominate Thursday, by the way.
Yeah.
That used to be
the NFL owns
Mountain West. That used to be the Mountain West window. And anyway, doesn't matter. Sergeant Pickles, question for chat. I get you are a Big 12 folks, but does Hunter really deserve the Heisman? We talked about this last week. We can go through it one more time. I've been talking about Jonty for weeks. Travis Hunter is a unique talent. It depends what you're voting for. The best football player at his position, I don't think there's a question, is Jonty. The best player in college football, I think you have to give it to Travis Hunter.
It's Hunter, yeah. The best player in the game is Travis Hunter.
Yeah,
he is getting a ton of exposure, which matters in this race too, because Colorado's on every week. He is an elite prospect too. He's going to be an elite NFL player if he plays cornerback or even if he plays receiver, especially cornerback. I think the guy deserves it. I think that it's kind of a no-brainer, honestly, and I think he's going to get it. A lot of it is because of the exposure, right?
Yeah, absolutely, it's because of the exposure. Yeah, and who Dion is, personality.
He's doing what Dion did. The running back corner. Exactly what Dion did in the NFL.
Well, Dion wasn't a running back.
No, I'm
special
sorry.
Teams
I'm sorry.
DB.
Corner and wide receiver. Sorry. That's what
he was. He was a kick returner. I think he maybe caught one.
No,
pass.
he was doing wide receiver duty at Dallas, and whenever here.
That's in the pros.
Yeah, in the
that
pros.
was in the pros. I'm talking about at Florida State. He maybe had one play in the pattern. He was the special teams and DB.
He did some, not a lot.
You could look it up. Maybe a handful of plays in an entire season.
But Ashton Genty, his season is historic.
He's the third. Historic. He's only the third back to go over 2,000 in FBS.
And 25 touchdowns. There's only one other person that's done that.
Well, Barry Sanders is.
Yeah.
And Ricky Waters was the other. Let's see here.
So yeah, I'm going to say Genty because that's a historic season. As good as Travis Hunter is, it's not history.
Best NFL.
It's a beauty pageant too. Like Heisman is a beauty pageant.
So best NFL player
of all time.
Ooh.
No, coming out of this college.
Oh, that's Hunter for sure.
Yeah, it's going to be Hunter. So all those things is going to give Hunter. Yeah. Jonty, he'll be lucky if he gets drafted in the second round. He's good, but running backs just don't get the run like they used to.
They're so interchangeable these days. In the NFL,
yeah. Trent Brown says, great show as always, gentlemen. Thank you, Trent. We appreciate you being here. Thank you so much. Followed that up by saying, great show and go Big 12, except ASU.
Ooh, the dig.
Trent not picking for ASU. So, all right, guys, we got a couple things. Buff says Hunter, yes. Shocker. Clint Moses says Jaunty. Shocker. So I think we kind of know there's some bias going in there. You guys, this has been a great show. I appreciate everybody being with us live tonight. Really quick, Daniel, what's your preview for this weekend? Who are the final two? Who makes it to the Big 12 championship game?
Iowa State, Arizona State.
Okay. Ute?
I think that it's going to be Arizona State and BYU.
Yeah, that's my pick as well. I think Kansas State's going to beat ISU.
And if BYU does not finish out Houston when they've got a berth on the line, then I might not be seeing Nate for a couple weeks.
I am going to retire from – you won't see me for like a month.
But
if they can't beat Houston at home. They just fired their offensive coordinator. Anyway, Rock and Rant, last comment. Bomber for Heisman, Ute for Maxwell, Gygax for Davey O'Brien. Thank you so much, Rock. Appreciate you being
Thanks,
here,
Rock.
coming in at the end. All right, so that's our picks. Everybody clip those things out. Hold us accountable next week. And we just encourage everybody that's watching, watch Big 12 football. Get your friends, family, sit down on Saturday morning, and watch Big 12 football from noon to midnight. And we need to get those numbers up. Get the message out. Brett Yormark's doing a job. I'm not sure he's doing the best job ever, but he's trying. And that's all any of us can do. So hopefully this next week we prove out and we can do well. We're not cheering against anybody, but we are cheering for ourselves. For Daniel Gygax, for Wild Ute, I am Nathan Bomber Brown. I want everybody to have a great night. Stay out of trouble. Drive safe. If you've been drinking, do not drive. And otherwise, we will see you tomorrow night for our Big Freaking Friday Wednesday show before Thanksgiving. Tomorrow night, 8 Eastern. We'll see you here. See you later. Bye.
Go Utes.
Peace.